Hello Nebraska, Rod here with the NFOA and your Week 4 weekend update. So we just completed the 4th week of the Nebraska 2018 legislature session, and we had an active week. There were 4 different bills being heard in committee this week. The first was LB 848 from Laura Ebke, minor wording revision. We support, but it was so minor, it wasn't something we were going to participate in the hearings. It's strictly an administrative change. 849, also from Laura Ebke, was a bill heard about concealed handgun permit process. It's a part of the CHP Act, and it adds to the CHP Act some administrative pieces for returning a firearm should law enforcement come across it. It addresses some issues that a number of our members have had trying to get their firearms returned after maybe a medical event or something where law enforcement ended up retaining the firearm and then not wanting to return it. So we spoke in favor of that bill. That was on Thursday. Wednesday was the hearing for LB 730, which was the Wayne bill for providing a excise tax on ammunition statewide. We spoke in opposition. We actually had one of our partners testify on our behalf, so we got our name on the record. It doesn't sound like it's going to go anywhere. It sounds like that's probably going to be held up in committee, but we know that it will likely be introduced again next year. And then, of course, the big bill, what took most of our attention this week, was the Patty Pansing-Brooks bill, LB 780. And that was the bill intended to ban bump fire stocks and silencers. We were in for a bit of a surprise when we attended the hearing for that, and right off the bat, Senator Pansing-Brooks introduced an amendment to the bill that would strike all of the language she had proposed for silencers. That means they were off the table, and the only remaining ban in that bill would be rate increasing devices, effectively bump fire stocks, but we were very concerned about how the language would possibly affect any aftermarket triggers or trigger modifications, any of that, because there could be an argument had that those types of modifications would also potentially increase the potential rate of fire for a firearm. It was a very interesting day. Of course, the antis were there, and they testified on behalf of their organizations, talking about how evil guns are and we need to ban everything, and this is a good start. They didn't make a whole lot of sense in their arguments. They spent a lot of time trying to attack one of the members, one of the legal counsels for the Judiciary Committee, because he had some history in being pro-gun, as if he couldn't keep an open mind. But this had already been settled because that particular staff member is not assigned to any of the gun bills that are in front of the Judiciary this year. And that was about all they had to offer. Pansing-Brooks, her view pretty much from interviews that I've heard is that if you were in possession of a firearm, that kind of leads down the path of being a bad person, I guess. Very similar to Ernie Chambers' comments in the past about you don't become a criminal until you have a firearm in your possession. Very interesting mentalities. We had a lot of opposition to this bill. Thank you to everyone who fired off an email, fired off a letter, called, whatever you did to assist in having your message heard. Thank you. That made a difference. Pansing-Brooks was quite upset with how much opposition she was hearing. Means you did a good job, guys. Keep it up. We had Senator Moorfeld was trying to argue about mass killings, and really seemed quite energized about the Las Vegas shooting. And so that's why he apparently is very much in support of banning bump fire stocks, any type of rate increasing device, in his words. However, when we try to explain that if we're talking about a mass killing, as opposed to a specific tool used for that, we came up with examples of using We talked about the Boston Marathon, where they used a pressure cooker. We talked about trucks and explosives, motor vehicles. I mean, all kinds of different tools that have been used in the past to kill a large number of people. And he didn't want to have anything to do with that argument and fired back, well, have they killed 50? Have they killed 50? I mean, he was really very focused on the number in order to make some comparison. So obviously the point was ignored, as we expected of the anti-gun community. Unfortunately, we do expect that this bill will come out of committee. There's a lot of anti-gun folks on that committee. I only expect 2 people to vote against it. However, I'm not sure if anybody's going to prioritize it. I'm not sure that the bill's going to go anywhere. But if it comes out of committee, that gives it some credence for being reintroduced again next year or sometime down the road. And that's where our risk is. So keep at it. Keep your messages going to your senators and those on the Judiciary Committee about what you think of this bill. We'll keep a close eye on it as things progress. If they progress, we will keep you up to speed, let you know. That pretty much covers what happened this past week. There wasn't anything heard on the floor this week. We have a couple that are pending. LB 556 is a facsimile weapons bill. That is something we're in a neutral position on. We're not taking a position at this point. We're watching it very closely because we want to make sure it does not become a vehicle for some anti-gun amendments. And of course we have, what else is coming up? 666. Oh yeah, that's the bill for trying to clarify and redefine what constitutes a concealed weapon in your vehicle because of a recent Supreme Court of Nebraska ruling that kind of made normal, what we expected was normal traditional transportation of a firearm being unloaded, encased, and not immediately accessible by the driver of a vehicle is now suddenly not quite the definition, and we need to get that clarified. 666 was introduced by Senator John Lowe in order to address that, and it looks like it's finally up for debate. It showed up on the agenda this past week and is slowly climbing. This next week, it probably will be heard. We don't know when, but it could be up Wednesday or Thursday. They are in recess on Monday. Back to business as usual Tuesday. So we'll see what happens. But they're going to come up for a first round of debate, and we'll be keeping a close eye on that. Take care, Nebraska. We'll talk to you next week.